I'm Colton Sutley with my co-host Tim Friedhaber, and you're listening to the Caution Free podcast. Today we have the driver of the number 11 410 wing sprint car, Carl Bowser. Uh, Carl, just to start out, kind of just give us a little bit on your background on how you got started racing.
Yeah, so I actually got started um a long time ago, probably younger than most people in today's world. Like I started racing 270 micro sprints when I was 16. Um, Drove those for kind of a year and a half. The first year, we only ran Blanket Hill Speedway. It was back when Blanket Hill was smaller than it is right now. Um, I don't remember the people that were running it then, but um, it was a smaller racetrack than it is now, still just as slick. But raced there for a season. Um, Basically, I don't know, spun out three times a night the first part of the year, and then won like seven races in a row to end the season. Um, so it kind of was a big learning curve from never racing anything to getting into those to then turning into winning all the time to almost kind of getting bored with winning. We didn't really travel anywhere. No, like you could go other places. And then the next year I traveled a little bit and actually destroyed a race car at Deerfield. The only time I've ever been to Deerfield. Um, Completely destroyed a race car. Um, and then after that, kind of decided to go 410 racing. Um, the 270s were getting just as expensive, not just as expensive as the 410s were back then, but it was close. And where I grew up, you could hear Lernerville Speedway from the house. So that kind of was my goal, was to run a 410. So it was like, well, if I'm going to spend money, instead of having to travel places, I might as well just buy a 410, even if it was a junky 410. Um, so we did that, bought a car, an engine, and a trailer from a guy named Gary Kreis. And Gary raced for a long time, and then got out, and then he just recently was back racing for a little while, and I think he's retired again. But um, kind of bought everything from him, and my rookie year in a 410 was 2005, and when I got into it, um, it was lucky enough that his dad Butch and Gary kind of both came with the deal as far as them working on it, setting it up, and it was a car they knew. It was a car Gary raced, an engine they had, so like it was all their stuff. We just bought it all from them. Sold my micro sprint, and you know, added a few $1,000s and bought everything they kind of had. Um, didn't really know anything, but had two guys that knew, probably 20 years of racing that kind of really kickstarted my career. As far as we still only, I'm probably first, I don't know, 5 or 6 years just ran Lernerville Speedway. That's the only place we went. We would go maybe once a year to Mercer, once a year to Tri City, but like didn't do a bunch of travel and just raced 16, 18 times a year and kind of did that for years then after that.
And then you said about how you didn't really travel not much for a while, and then in 2018 you ran with the All Stars. Is that right?
Yeah, so just started running 410s, um, just running Lernerville. I think 2009 or 10 um, was kind of the first year that we like traveled, and the guy that bought Mercer from Vicky Emming, was his name was Bill Altman, and he owned Mercer for a long time there before, he was kind of the last guy to run it before Michaels have it now. But Bill was a guy that I grew up knowing. Um, Worked with his company, like knew him. He took me to my only NASCAR race was Bill Altman. So when he bought Mercer, we kind of started running there weekly. And then that kind of just kicked things off. I was older then. I could drive the truck and trailer, could kind of do the work. So was kind of paying most of the bills. So started to travel more and race more. And then in fast forward to 2016, I had gotten married. My wife is a Swartzlander. She's Brian Swartzlander's niece, so she come from a racing family. When we were dating, like I'd have to go to the racetrack to see her. Her parents owned Precise Racing, the speed shop in Sarver there. So kind of that's how I got to meet them, and that's how I got to know her. So going to the races was just something that she always did. So when we got married, we kind of started racing more and taking on more the financial stuff. And then in 2016, we purchased the team from my family. They wanted to be done racing. We literally sold our house, took basically all the money we made in the house that we had bought and fixed up, and bought everything from them that we could. So we traveled a little bit in 2016 of us owning the team. 2017 comes along. I get an opportunity to drive or partner with the Chiapelli 98 car. So it was a 50-50 partnership deal where they owned the truck and trailer and the engines. My wife and I owned the cars. We had to take care of anything the car needed. They took care of anything the engines needed, anything that like diesel fuel, anything the truck needed. And it was purely a partnership, and it was cheaper for us. We had literally sold our house and bought all this stuff. And when I bought everything from my family, we couldn't afford the truck and trailer. So we didn't have a truck and trailer. We had cars, and we bought the engines, but we couldn't afford the truck and trailer that we had, like for what my family wanted. So the Chiapelli deal came along, partnered with them. It made perfect sense for us. In 2017, I think we raced 50 some races. We were kind of regulars at Port Royal, ran some local stuff, did a bunch of all-star stuff. And then middle of 2017, we decided in 2018, we were going to go all-star racing. So then that kind of kicked off and changed our plans. So we kind of had to gear up a little bit, but we geared up, and in 2018 ran most of the all-star season. I broke off our partnership or quit driving for them, or however you'd want to say that. Kind of at the end of the year, we weren't really seeing eye to eye on everything, and things were getting expensive. And even though I wasn't taking care of the engine costs or the diesel fuel costs, like these are still expensive cars to run, and the all-stars are kind of no different. And it's harder to afford a car on the All-Star Tour, but I mean, it's harder. You got to put new tires on the car. You got to keep a car fresher than you do locally. Locally, it's not as important at times. And even to this day, if I can get away, like we won at Tri-City there last weekend, and we did it on used tires all night. Like we didn't put any new tires on the car. Just if I can save some money there, we don't. But we couldn't do that on the All-Star Tour. It was, you got to run the same tire all night, so it's got to be a new tire. And it was competitive, really competitive. So it was a losing deal for us. So we split from them in 2018, and right at the end. So I didn't finish the All-Star Tour. It was something that I've always wanted to go back and do, and now the All-Stars don't exist. So probably never get the chance to really do that. But I've always wanted to kind of finish that or do it ourselves if we could, and just to do it start to finish. But then 2018 quit driving for the 98 car. We still had stuff. So we got our own car. We started the 11 team that we have today. We did that right at the end of 2018. Went and bought 2 old motors. Like I quit the 98 team on a Monday morning. By the end of that week, I went and bought 2 old motors to just kind of flip and resell. We borrowed a trailer from Brian Sportslander. They had a little tag trailer. We borrowed a trailer, borrowed their truck and trailer. And we went to PPMS on that Saturday, and we won the race. So it was kind of a cool way for us to kick the 11 team off. And we actually ran really well the rest of the year. I think we ran 5 races and won 4 of them. So it was a breath of fresh air at the end of that year for kind of getting your teeth kicked in all year on the All-Star Tour, and then turn around and win some races. So that was cool. And then we've been driving the 11 car ever since. Just kind of my wife and I, and we've brought partners in. We've brought on sponsors that have really helped, and couldn't do it without them.
You ran in the McCandless car a little bit last year, didn't you?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, so I ran that car last year. So we got to know McCandless's kind of when Logan was so I guess rewind. So when Bill Altman that I talked about earlier bought Mercer, so Greg McCandless, Logan's dad, was kind of partners on the deal with them on that deal. And they had hired my wife to be the promoter. So she was the promoter for a season up there when they got started. So that's kind of, we have known McCandless's for a long time. And I mean, way back then, that was 2012, something like that, 13 maybe, I'm not sure. But back then Logan was a little kid. I mean, he was probably 10 years old. So have known them for a long time. And then about this time last year, they had Cy Lynch driving the car, and they had Parker Price Miller driving the car. And Cy was running his own car at Eldora for the Million. And we were at a race at Sharon 4 days before the Million, and I was talking to him and I was asking him about, if they were going to Eldora, and they're like, no, Cy's gonna run his own car. We're gonna stay home. And I was like, oh man, I'd love an opportunity like to go out there. Like they had their Ford motors, and I mean those Fords hit like crazy. So so they said, yeah, let's do it. So I drove out there. We went out there and ran the 4 nights of the Million. We actually didn't run the Kings Royal. It looked like rain. So we left for the Kings Royal to come back to run Mercer because it's their home track. And on the way back, Mercer rained out as well. So we didn't get to run, but so it was just a short stint. Cy got back in the car, and I thought like, well, I kind of blew my shot there. Like we didn't run that well. We were one spot out of making the Million in our heat race. But then I kind of went backwards in the B, and we struggled a little bit. But I don't know. They got to maybe the break for the Nationals, and whatever happened between them and Cy, they kind of split ways, and they came back and asked if I could finish the year. And there was a couple of weekends where I couldn't. We had some sponsor stuff going on that I couldn't drive the car. But we ran, I don't know how many races, but we were trying to get them 15 points, and we had a great shot right at the Eldora at the finale. And I just kind of messed up in the B main and cost us a spot in, which would have got them 15 points. I know that was their whole goal, was to get to 15 points. We were 6th, and we fought out of a big hole to get there, but came up a little short.
How did it feel to race at, I know you didn't make the $1 million race, but like just to be there for like that big event, like how was that feeling?
Oh, it was crazy. Honestly, just the amount of people. The amount of people there was nuts. Couldn't go anywhere. It was people stacked on top of everybody, and the racing was super intense. Like I said, we struggled a little bit, and we weren't off a lot, but being off a little bit at that race with however many cars were there, 60 some cars, it didn't take much to be way off down the charts anyhow. So that was crazy. The drivers meeting, just everything at Eldora is bigger. Like the drivers meeting, you go up to a barn on top of the hill, and they have a drivers meeting where all the fans can come, and it's probably the biggest drivers meeting I've ever been to. It's in this building where you got all these tables and 60 drivers, and then probably 1,000 fans around, and so it was a little crazy that way. So, but it was definitely an experience.
Was that your first time racing at Eldora?
No, so we were there in the 98 car, the year we ran the All-Star Tour. We were there for the early shows in the year. We weren't for the end of the year. We had split with them to go back, but it's a place that I liked. It's a place we ran well in the 98 car. Had a lot of speed. It's kind of similar to PPMS. It's different, but PPMS is the only track around here that has a lot of similarities as far as keeping the car straight. Or I'd say the old PPMS, not really now. New PPMS is kind of around the bottom, and it takes rubber, but rewind 6 years and it's right against the wall and black slick, and keep your car straight and kind of use momentum. And Eldora is a lot like that, where you can go run 6 inches from the wall, or you can try and make your car run through the middle. But we were fast there when we went. And then we were fast at the end of the year in the McCandless car for the 4 Crown. Like I said, I don't remember where we started in the B, but we were just 1 or 2 spots out, like kind of charged up through. And, I made one mistake and cost us some ground, but we had a real shot there too.
Yeah, Eldora seems like a track that like if you make like one little mistake, it like you see a lot of guys like they're coming up through and then all of a sudden they just kind of start fading back and you just it's kind of crazy just to see how that goes at Eldora.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's so much momentum. Like you can screw a corner up, but it feels like it takes you a whole lap, if not more, to get your speed back up. So when you watch guys that are good there, you truly figure out how good they are of every corner. They're in the right spot. They got their car not crossed up or keeping the tires underneath them. It's crazy. It takes you screw up a corner, it takes a whole lap to get your speed back up, and by then the guys in front of you are gone, and you've lost 3 or 4 spots.
Going
So,
back, oh sorry, Tim, you can go ahead.
um, yeah, you mentioned a little bit about how like tracks have changed over the years, and when we were at Tri-City this weekend, you were talking about how like the track is just like so much different than it used to be. Like it used to be like almost against the wall. And just wondering if you could talk about like how the tracks have changed over the years, like maybe Tri-City specifically right now.
Sure. So I think so Tri-City right now, like we did talk up there. It used to be, years ago when I started, it was really slick. Um, got, I mean, probably doubled the actual racing width of what we're racing on right now. And I think a lot of tracks around, like I know Sharon has changed a bunch, but I mean they changed the surface that they had. Lernerville's always had the same surface, but I think a lot of that goes to, the track guys that you have, like whoever's working on the racetrack. You can change the profile of the track. I mean, right now, Tri City, you get, I mean, half, 3/4 of the way up the corner, and it flattens off. Kind of the banking goes away from it. So it's there. I don't say there's never going to be any racing up there, but it would take a lot for the racing line to be there. And that's not something you can just fix overnight or bring in a greater guy and think that, well, you're just going to reshape it. Like that's something that takes a while. And I've never worked a racetrack. I mean, I've done dirt work my entire life, but I've never worked a racetrack. But yeah, just you can look at it and see that it's different. Or the surface changes, or if you don't keep up with it, like a lot of people, you look at Lernerville. So Lernerville and Sharon have the same clay, but they're entirely different surfaces. I mean, it's an ice skating rink at Sharon, and Lernerville, they do pretty good at keeping it pretty fast all the time. Or if it rains, it's going to be really fast. But what you can't see down in, like Lernerville probably has 2 feet of clay on the racetrack, and Sharon has 6 inches of clay. So it's just not gonna, you know, Sharon can't tow it up and water it and maybe prep it, what you would say correctly, like to get it really heavy, um, because they just don't have the dirt there or the clay there to work with it to do that. And then I don't think they want to do that. I mean, they'd rather it be slick because, I mean, in all the years I've raced, like I've got to know the Blaney's really well, and I've went racing with Dave a bunch. Um, it's a big expense to put clay on a racetrack. Like Tri City, like if you were to put clay on Tri City, that's a big racetrack. Like you're talking, you know, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to do that. And you get it all heavy and it goes on to race cars, or the guys start running high and they start blowing it out off the racetrack, or it's leaving on race cars at the end of the night. Like there's all your money, and it's rolling out the gate as far as the racetrack's concerned. So I don't think Sharon wants that. But they also don't have the clay to do that. So it's all different, but it's always the same for everyone. So you got to just figure it out.
So how do you feel about track prep in the middle of the race? Um, I I just we observed some things this weekend that were a
Sure.
little we
Well,
felt off.
lots of tracks are like this across the country. Like watching on Flow and Dirt Vision, I've noticed as well, not just one track in particular.
Yeah, that's fair enough. My theory always is if you can make it better, um, if the track crew can make the racing better, they should do that. But I've been racing long enough to know if it's 10 o'clock at night, probably not a good time to get on the racetrack and rework the thing. Cause like the racers don't want to come back for that. Tri-City, and I'm not saying Tri-City did this, but like if it's 10 o'clock on a Sunday night or even 9:30 on a Sunday night, like reworking the racetrack and running it in isn't the right thing to do. Like you're going to make your racers mad. You're going to make your fans mad. People aren't going to come back to that because nobody wants to leave, even if it's a Friday or Saturday. They don't want to leave the racetrack at 1 o'clock in the morning. And like if you could do it all and make it right, Pittsburgh, and I'm throwing them under the bus a little bit, but like we've had two sprint car shows there, I think, this year, and we've had long reworks, like 45-minute track reworks, and within 3 laps, it's right back to the same surface we had. So like you can do that once or maybe even twice, but like by that time you got to kind of learn this isn't going to work. So you kind of got what you got. Like again, I've never worked a racetrack, but like if you don't work on it all week, or even if you do work it on week, when it comes race time, like that's what you have. You can't fix that. It's kind of like I said earlier about like regrading a racetrack. You're not just going to fix that in a half hour. Like it's a lot more work than that. And if a track can make it better, Lernerville's great, I think. But they have the same guy that's been working the racetrack for 20 years there. So Dan, like he knows it. He knows what to do. It's very rare, I would say, that they do like a whole rework or have to do a rework of the racetrack because they're good, or Dan's good at knowing like, hey, if it's slick and dusty, like it's going to be slick and dusty tonight. Like that's what we got. We'll have to fix it next time. But you can't shut a program down the middle of it and do that long of an intermission to rework the racetrack and hope that it's better, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's been coming up to Tri-City and helping a lot, is what I've heard.
Yeah.
haven't I don't know what he looks like, so I wouldn't be able to tell you if he was actually there or not if I saw him. But like I think I heard this past Sunday he was not there. He had something else going on, but
Yeah, no, he wasn't there Sunday. I was standing with Dale Blaney looking at the racetrack and told kind of the one official there about like, hey, why don't you get the grader out? Maybe knock that curb down and try and move it up. And he turned around, looked at us, and was like, grader guy's not here, but like, there's nobody that can run that thing. So, you can't win them all. I looked at Dale and told him, I was like, well, you're up, buddy. Go climb in and figure it out.
Oh man, that
yeah,
was cool.
No,
That was cool seeing him there.
Oh yeah,
was not expecting it.
No, no, I think that was 2 weeks in a row he was there. I know he didn't get to run the week I won. I think they had something break the first lap, but yeah, I think they're trying to do a little more racing.
yeah, I was there back in March at PPMS for that first sprint car race, and that was a long day, and uh, it the track ended up being good for the future, but during the day when the sun was still out, it was a little dusty, I'd say. Back.
Oh yeah, yeah, and anytime, and Tri City's kind of the same. And I think they fight the same thing. Like when the sun's beating on a racetrack, if the sun's beating on it and the wind's blowing, like you don't really stand a chance. I mean, even Lernerville, for as much clay as they have and as wet as they can get the racetrack, even they don't stand a chance when it's daytime shows. Like we've run like the Stampede that they run at the end of the year. Like we've rained out on Saturday and come back and run on Sunday. And I mean, the track takes rubber. Like it just, you can't win that battle. So like Pittsburgh, that first show in March in Pittsburgh, like they did a big long track rework, and I don't know if the track rework really helped, but what did help during that whatever hour rework that they did, the sun went down. So then like soon as the sun went down, the track changes. Like temperatures in the racetrack go down, moisture can stay, like it just changes. But I mean the sun in the air, you can't fight that.
Yeah. Gotta give them credit for trying something different around here. And I mean, most of the daytime shows are like out in Central PA, and actually, I think that's pretty much the only place that's crazy enough to try daytime shows.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I give them all the credit. I mean, they did a good show. They probably made a lot of money. Like there was a lot of people there. I know they were running out of food. They were running out of drinks. Like I don't know how much of that stuff they had, but I mean, I bet it was profitable for them. So, um, all they can do is learn and try something different or just have a different plan for next time.
Can
Um,
you talk about your Tri-City win a few weeks ago? I know they had a ton of cars that night, which was, I mean, sort of surprising for me. I mean, their car counts have been like pretty consistent, but 29 cars is a lot.
Yeah, 29. I was surprised at 29. And I think there was probably 5 or 6 of those were 305s.
Hmm.
Guys getting ready for this past weekend's two feature deal or whatever. But yeah, there was a ton of cars. I was shocked, honestly. It felt like every time we turned around, another car was pulling in, and it was some good cars. You kind of had all your Western PA guys. Your front runners were all there, and um, we had Zane DeVault come in from Ohio, and that's a good team. Um, so no, I was shocked. I can't say that I got to race with a bunch of them. Like we had lucky pill draws, like started on the front row of our heat race and then started on the front row of the feature. Um, but still had to battle with Brandon Spithiler for a while, and then DeVault at the end. Like we had a red with 10 to go, and I was leading, and my guys came out, and I mean they said the vault's he's coming. Like the track was taking a little bit of rubber, and our tires. They told me my tires look good, um, so they said he was coming. Like I had to get up on the wheel and kind of not make any mistakes for 10 laps there and hold him off.
Well, you did, obviously. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, it all worked out. It was honestly there was that many cars, and the track was pretty narrow. Kind of what like last week when you guys were there, it was still pretty narrow. Um, so we kind of had a plan. I started on the front row of the feature and kind of had a plan of if I can get, the race was going to be getting to turn one on the first lap. Like if I can get out in front, kind of set the pace. So I would every time we had a yellow, and even after we had a red flag there, like I'd run 2 laps as hard as I could, and then if I didn't hear anybody, really just kind of slow myself down, like just put the throttle in like a 50% and just kind of ride and try and make it as long as I could till I got into lap traffic, because it was a little bit of a narrow racetrack, and lap cars were hard to get around. So I thought like if I can just slow the pace down, I didn't care if everybody was in a line behind me on the same straightaway. Like if I didn't see anyone, I wasn't going to run any harder than I had to, and just try and click laps away. And I did that until that red on with 10 to go, and I ran a few hard laps, and I saw the vault a couple times, and um, my crew guy said like he'll probably try something on the restart, or if not, if you slow the pace down, like he'll be right on you. Like he'll probably pull something coming to the checkered flag. So I did that, and I saw 2 to go, and just tried to rip off two fast laps, and actually coming to the checkered through 3 and 4, like kind of caught a lap car and kind of used it as a pick on the bottom. So I knew going down the back straightaway, if I could keep him on the bottom and me on the top, like kind of took away any kind of chance of a slider or anything like that. So yeah, just try to be smart. And we rolled in victory lane, and I mean our tires were bald, like completely gone. So I don't know about anyone else's, but I was glad for that lap 10 red for my guys to tell me that our stuff looked good, and I could make it to the end, because I know after the race, talking to some guys when the red happened, their tires were already pretty far gone.
yeah.
yeah, and you said about like how lap traffic is played like a key part in how hard you went, and like if depending on how close you were to it. And uh this past Sunday, the pass for the lead was like in lap traffic for the win. Like on it,
Oh
like
yeah.
that's when Matt Farnham was able to get by Michael Bauer. And it like there was like a lap car in front of him, and like one like kind of somewhat close behind. And It was like getting the last few laps were very interesting because of lap traffic, and just kind of shows like how important, how like from one week the one guy's able to use it to their, like, each the leader's able to use it to their advantage, and then the following week the second place guy was able to use it to make the pass for the win.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Usually anytime, I mean, if your car's good and you're battling, I'd rather be in second than leading the race when you get into traffic. Cause like as the leader, you gotta kind of push the envelope a little bit and try and work by guys. But then that usually leads to mistakes. And then a lot of times it's the way that it works. Like you can work on a guy to put him a lap down. And soon as, and then we see it, you can watch an outlaw show, you see it. It doesn't matter. Like you watch anything, you know, the leader will get the lap car and then the lapper will duck to the bottom, or like then he knows that the leaders are coming, or, he's already a lap down. So then kind of gets out of the way for the second and third place guy where like they were running the top or all over the racetrack. And then the leader works to get them. And then as soon as the leader gets them, the guy will slow down and run the bottom or pull off the racetrack. And it's like, if you're in second and that happens, that's right. Usually when the races tighten up, and then you can just kind of know, if you know where you're at, just kind of wait for a mistake or, be right in position to pounce.
So are you actually able to hear guys behind you? Like with how loud your car is?
Sometimes, yeah. A lot of times you can hear, and sometimes, I mean, Sharon is one, Pittsburgh's one. Like when you get running right against the fence, a lot of times you hear kind of the echo of your own car right against the wall. So then you might think that someone's there, because you can hear something. And it's not like you hear the guy's engine. You can just kind of start to sense or, hear a little bit of something. It's like, man, that my sound is changed in the helmet. And it's like, okay, someone's either right on me. It kind of running at the same pitch. Cause like when you pass lap cars, usually the guys in the back, like they're not running the car as hard. So you're not around them long enough to really hear them. But yeah, you get a sense. But um, there's been times where I've run a race thinking that I had a guy on my bumper the entire way, and you pull in and they're like, no, you had, a straightaway lead or something. It's like, man, I could have swore there was a guy just waiting for me to screw up. So I mean, that's probably a good thing, to be that way than just kind of putzing around. But yeah, you can hear them. Or a lot of times, guys, you'll catch a glimpse of a guy trying to get underneath of you or on the outside of you. You can see enough around to know what's going on.
So you have two track championships at Lernerville, 2011 and 2014. Um, do you have any other track championships at any other tracks?
I think we have one at Pittsburgh, and they don't really take points. I don't know that I knew that we won that, until the next year. They will come around and handed like little plaques out. It didn't pay any money, but it was they must have kept points and we ran good enough or whatever throughout the year. But no, just those two at Lernerville. And a lot of times, we haven't really been a points racing team. When the All-Stars are around, like when we started our 11 car after we ran the tour, the All-Stars they were really good at like, if they were racing somewhere, like you could make a deal with them basically to run X amount of shows. If you had to run 10 All-Star shows, they would give you a list of racetracks that they needed cars at, where they knew that they would be light on cars. And if they were light on cars, you could make a deal with them of like, they would pay you some tow money to go or give you some passes, or sometimes both. And a lot of times it was like the New York races they would run, or even races around here. So we did that. We did that for probably 5 years, where you could make a deal and, you might get $200 and 2 pit passes to go to these all-star races. But if you ran so many races that they needed cars at, they would kind of double it and pay you that same thing for races that they didn't need cars at. So for us, like they never really needed cars at like Lernerville or Sharon or, some local racetracks, even Tri-City when they had all-star shows. But if we signed up to do that deal, we'd still get the $200 and 2 free pit passes for going to races that we were already going to go to. So we would do that, and then we would take weekends off from racing for points at Lernerville. Like Lernerville's kind of the only track around that did points. Mercer did for a while, but like we would take off those point weekends and go run all-star shows, because if the all-stars are going to pay us to be there, and usually the start money is pretty good for an all-star show, like I always justified it as like we could go for 3 races into New York, and even if we made every race and finished dead last, we'd get more money than we would if we would win the points at Lernerville. So like it was an easier, like, yeah, we didn't put a points championship together, but like money in the pocket to pay for the team, like it made more sense. So we would do stuff like that, and then the all-stars would come to Lernerville, and then you'd still get some extra money. So these deals are all about getting stuff, I don't say it's getting stuff paid for, but making it financially so you can keep going.
You said about how the All-Stars are sadly no longer around, but a big race Lernerville always has. I don't know when the first one was off the top of my head, but it's at least been 30, 40 years probably, is the Silver Cup. What would that mean to like win the Silver Cup for you if you were
If
able
we,
to?
yeah, if we were able to, I don't know. I'd probably retire right there on the spot. Just be done. That's one race, growing up going to the races, it's not like until I raced myself, I had never been to another dirt track other than, or any other racetrack really, than Lernerville. So growing up as a kid, like we would go to the Silver Cup, we'd go to an outlaw show, like we'd go to the weekly shows, but the Silver Cup was a big deal. Like I was there. I remember exactly where I was sitting when Ed Lynch Jr. won the Silver Cup, whatever year that was, 2002. Like I could take you right there and sit down and remember the whole thing. So that was cool. So no, that's always been my holy grail, would be the Silver Cup, just because it's the track I grew up going to. I don't know that I've ever had a shot to legitimately win that race. I think my best outlaw finish at Lernerville is an 8th. And that was a few years ago. But I don't know if we won that. I don't know. Might just call it a day right there and tie one on that night and sell everything the next day.
Well, if you do win, I know whose trailer I'm going to party at afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then somehow drag my butt to work the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. I might have to call off. I don't know.
Yeah, to me, I didn't grow like Lernerville's like an hour and 24 minutes from where I live. It's kind of past handful of years, it's kind of started to become like a kind of like a second home track to me, even though there's other tracks that are closer. And it's just like the Silver Cup. I've went to it 4 times, I think, so far, and it's just I don't know. To me, that's like one of the crown jewels and the nationally in sprint car racing. And I'd give pretty much anything to see you or any other Western PA driver to win that thing. And like I, it'd be awesome to see that happen someday. And I hope this summer it happens.
Yeah, me too. That'd be cool for any local guy to win it. Like I said, I can remember, almost every detail of Ed Lynch winning that, and I can remember, him winning races leading up to that, and people would boo him and everything else, and then and I'm sure there was some boos that night. I don't remember boos that night. I remember everybody, on their feet, kind of losing their mind when he won. But that was cool. I was there when Tim Schaefer won it. And he was an outlaw regular and won it, but it was still, a big deal. People, he was excited that night. That was cool. So, that was a big deal. I was there. I don't think we were racing, but like Danny Holgraver was racing and he runs second. They did like the twin features they did for a while with the Outlaws, and he ran second to one for one of the features, and like that was a big deal, you know. So it's definitely a big deal for the area and for Lernerville.
Do you think?
Oh, sorry, Tim, you can go ahead.
Okay. I forget who said it. It may have been on a podcast or something, but they were talking about how like the pro level cars like just and like sometimes for Lernerville, if it's super hooked up, like you can't like compete with those guys sometimes. Do you find that to be true? Like your car can't compete with like Brad Sweet if the track's just like dead hooked?
Yeah, and I mean, definitely to an extent. And I don't know how much it has to do with the race car per se, but I mean, when the racetrack's fast, it's all an engine game. You know, locally, there's probably one or two teams locally that have, you know, four engines where they can keep them fresh and cycle them through, and you know, stuff like that. And then that takes a lot of money. You know, they might not have a big truck and trailer, but you get that many engines where you can cycle them through. Like I can tell you for our team, I have two engines, and I mean, knock on wood, one's fresh that we just got back from the engine builder 3 weeks ago, and the other one's got 900 laps on it. Like it needs to go get rebuilt. So when you're talking hooked up racetracks or qualifying where it's usually heavy, these outlaw teams, they'll run a motor. You know, they'll run a motor. They got 6-night motors. They got 12-night motors. And I mean, if you find an outlaw car that has, you know, 15 nights on it, that engine's coming out. Or it's the back marker outlaw guys that are running 16, you know, races where, you know, we put 24, 30 nights on a motor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's dollars and cents. Like that's what we have to do, you know, to make it last through the year. But it is a big difference on how fresh those motors are. You know, the fresher the engine or a newer engine, they make more power. You can run them harder. It's just what it is.
So I was gonna ask about you mentioned about watching like Ed Lynch Jr. win the Silver Cup and Tim Schaefer and Danny Holtgraver. Um, how was it when you first started racing and some of those guys were still racing? How was it to like start racing against some of the guys that like you used to watch and like look up to?
I was scared to death. Like my first outlaw show I ever went to, and I don't think it was my rookie year. I think it was the second year I raced, but like um, I can remember being pushed out for time trials and like shaking in the race car. You know, there's all these people there. There's all these big haulers and outlaw guys you've watched forever, and then like you're on the racetrack, and I'm nowhere close to being competitive with them. I mean, we still struggle to be competitive with them, but like just to be there and race with them was unbelievable. I can tell you the first time, like the first, I want to say big name guy driver that I like really got to know was Dale Blaney. Like Silver Cup was a 2-feature deal. You know, they all the cars that made the first feature made the second feature. Um, Dale was running a George Fisher car, and they blew a motor in the first one, and Dale's sitting in the infield, and he's pitted beside us, and like he had said, hey, you know, just kind of small talk like you do when you park by someone, like nothing really crazy. Um, and Dale comes in, shoves in, and the motor's blown up, and like they're getting loaded up, and he just takes his safety stuff and sets it on the ramp of our trailer. And I didn't make the race that night. And he sets it on the ramp of the trailer. And when I got a crew guy that comes up and he's like, so Dale's setting all his stuff on our trailer. Like, what's that about? I was like, I don't know, but just leave him alone. Like, don't say nothing. Don't bother us, you know? And Dale comes over and he's like, so here's the deal. Um, my car blew up, but I made this race. So like, if you let me run your car, like I'll start and park it and we'll split the start money. So I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So like he goes over and he's trying to get in the race car, and I'm trying to talk him into like running the car hard. Like go race it, you know, like let's see, is it me in this thing? Like what can we fix? Like you tell me. And he's like laughing. He's like, I'm not racing your race car. Like, there's no way. Like, I'll take the green, pull in, I'll get the start money. Like, you split it, and it was like, you know, pre social media and everything, and he's like, we're going to get a check. Like, it'll be made out to me. Like, I'll sign the back of it. And you give me the cash and give me, 50% of the cash, and you can take the check to the bank and they'll cash it if I sign it over to you or whatever. And then we ended up, Dale didn't even get to run the car. Like, Darren Pittman was there. He come over and saw what was going on because he was parked on the other side of us, and he come over and they were struggling. So like, Pittman was the first alternate, so he didn't. Somehow Pittman ran the race. Dale didn't even get to run the race. I still got 50% of the start money. Dale got the cash, and Pittman had to sign their team's check over to me. Like, it was a whole cluster. But Dale's been great. I mean, ever since then, that was, like I said, 2008 or 2009. I don't remember when. But ever since then, like, I can see Dale anywhere at the racetrack, and we'll just start kind of shooting the shit and bullshit. And so it was pretty funny.
Well, Tim, do you got any more questions before we start wrapping this up?
I don't think so.
Well, before we start doing our ending questions, I wanted to ask, what are some younger local drivers that you that been catching your eye on to watch as the years start going by?
Sure. One of them is Logan McCandless. Like, I say people don't give him enough credit, but like, Logan, like, they're doing it right. Like, he got out of the race car for a year, learned how to work on it, take care of it. And I mean, and he truly knows. Like, I won a race at Lernerville last year. Logan was a crew chief. Like, they weren't racing for the weekend of the Knoxville Nationals. I talked him into coming and working on my car, and we won at Lernerville, and he was the guy in the wrenches, like, making the calls. So that's really helped him, and now he's gotten in the car, and when you understand that, you understand the race car a lot better. You can be a lot better driver. So he's done really well. Like, he won those 2 races in West Virginia. Like, I think there's going to be big things from him. So yeah, he would be a younger guy. Other than that, I feel like there's not a ton of young guys. Like, I mean, I think of a lot of the guys that I've been racing with is young. Like, I think Brandon Madden is young, and I think he's 30 years old. So, not that young, I guess. But no, he's been good. Like, I've been watching a lot of 305 racing. And like, Jarrett Rosenkrantz is a guy that got into it not that long ago, and like, they've been struggling this year, I think, with kind of he's wrecked a couple cars and had some bad luck, but like, he got in it and ran well. And he's someone that's kind of been around my shop working a little bit here and there, and kind of helped him get going on their first car. So I always try and watch him.
Yeah, he mentioned you on his episode that
Oh yeah,
that
yeah,
he needed some help with a mower or something, and he
oh
lives
yeah,
down
yeah.
the street
He's
now.
just
So
yeah, he's a neighbor. Yeah, it works out. He's got a lawn care business. He sponsors a race car, and he cuts the grass here, so I don't have to. So, but it's great, and you can tell. I always tell anyone racing anything, like, if you get out of it what you put in it. Like, if you want to learn, like, Jarrett's a kid that wants to learn. Like, he asks questions. Well, why does it do this? Why does that make the race car better? What makes that worse? Like, if you're going to work at it, like, you're going to see results. And like, it's not a guaranteed thing. Like, right now, like, they're struggling, wrecked a race car, and like, that sets you back. But if you work at it, and him and his dad do, like, they don't come around our shop anymore, because I mean, they got their own race car to work on all the time. But they still stop in every once in a while. But yeah, no, and anybody that getting into racing, like, if you're going to work at it, you can be as successful as you want to be. Like, it's like anything in life. It takes work.
So towards the end of our episodes, I guess at the end, we do rapid fire questions, which aren't very rapid fire. So I'll start off first. What is your favorite tool that you have in the trailer?
Our shock dyno. Um, we, I've been we've been blessed to be able to afford a shock dyno, but just recently when we got the trailer we have now, it's moved into the trailer, so it goes with us to the racetrack all the time. The shocks are on that. You know, anymore sprint car racing, in my mind, it's an engine and a shock game. And there's lots of other things that make a difference, but nothing quite like if those are wrong, you're gonna have a bad night. So I use that thing. That thing gets used all night long. Like, run good, pull a shock off, put it on the dyno, see where it's at. You know, if it's changed, make sure it's set right. So that's probably my favorite.
What's your favorite food to eat?
I'm a steak guy, so you give me a good steak, I'm happy.
Who's one person you would go to dinner with, and where would you go? It could be
Oh man,
anyone.
be anyone. That's hard to say. Um, I'd probably go to dinner with Steve Kinzer. Um, I don't know where I'd go, wherever he wanted to go, somewhere with a drink, I think. The little bit I've been around him, he likes to drink and have a good time. So wherever he'd want to go, I'd have a bunch of questions, just on his whole life. Probably wouldn't even be racing stuff, just racing stories.
What's your go-to when you go race somewhere, like if you guys, late night, what's your go-to to stop and eat on the way home?
Um, Usually a Sheets. Sheets are usually big enough that you can get a truck and trailer in, and I'm always the one driving the truck and trailer. So that's usually a mobile app. Order ahead, swing in, block all the gas pumps, or double park a bunch of people and go in and grab your food and jump in back in the truck and leave.
Yeah, that's my go-to too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
they
much.
make it easy. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So everyone normally says Sheets. And then I follow that question with what is your go-to MTO order at Sheets?
I'm usually like a chicken sandwich, chicken tenders, usually chicken tenders and tater tots. They don't have tater tots on their menu anymore. I'm a probably chicken sandwich, chicken tenders, tater tots guy. Something you can eat driving down the road in the middle of the night when it's dark, so you don't have to worry about spilling anything on yourself or anything like that. So
Yeah.
like when we leave Lernerville, there's a Sheets between where we car wash and Lernerville. So leave the racetrack, order ahead, swing in, grab it at the Sheets, drive through Butler, get to the other side, hit the car wash. Usually I'm done eating by the time I pull into the car wash, and I got a crew guy there, who lives by the car wash I drive to, and I go to that one because he lives there. And he's already there, so we unload and wash everything, and then I get to drive back to the house.
At least it's not too far of a drive.
No, I'm spoiled. Spoiled. It's really sad, honestly. Even our house here in Butler, like the firecracker, or is it the firecracker, the big late model race that was
Yeah.
at Lernerville a couple weeks ago? Like we could hear Lernerville from our house here in Butler. So it takes me longer to get there in a truck and trailer than if I was just in a car. But I mean, we're 15 minutes from the racetrack, so it's spoiled. I mean, everybody in Pennsylvania is completely spoiled. Like, you go to the Midwest and a guy will drive 6 hours to race on a Saturday night, and like, I don't know that I'd race anywhere 6 hours away right now. That doesn't sound fun.
Oh.
So what's your favorite track, and what's a bucket list track that you haven't been to?
Oh, that's so favorite track. Probably Knoxville. I only got to race there one time. I've been there working for different people at the Nationals quite a few times. Um, but to get to race there, to find out how hard it is to race there, crazy. You know, and I only got there once the year we ran the All-Star Tour, and I always joke like, so if you listen to any interview from Tony Stewart and he talks about how hard a sprint car is there, like he says that he won a D main at a race at Knoxville, and he won the D main that night, and I finished second to him in the D main. Like that's how many cars were there for a local, I would say a local show, but like a regular Saturday night that was an all-star show a week before the Nationals, and there was 60 race cars, and like I ran second to Tony in the D main. So like that's my claim to fame at Knoxville. But no, that's probably my favorite racetrack. Just the history. It's a great place to be. I mean, if you ever get a chance to go to the Knoxville Nationals, you got to go. Like it is a week long thing of racing, and it's intense racing and tons of fans. It's super cool. Bucket list track. I don't know. I've got to race a lot of places. Like, got to run Devil's Bowl in Texas in a 360 car. Like that was fun. Probably Tulare in California, if we're being honest. I don't know that'd be any good there, but gets high speed, high banked right against the wall. Like that's right up my alley. So I never got to race in California. Got to go to Australia and race. That was cool. I've been to kind of all the tracks on the East Coast. So yeah, I'd say Tulare if I had to think about it.
Well, it sounds like we're gonna have you on another time so we can talk about racing in Australia and
Yeah.
all these other tracks. But to kind of end the episode, kind of where can people follow your racing at?
Yeah, so all of our social media stuff is all just at Carl Bowser. We're working on a new website at the moment. We're kind of redoing. We hadn't redone a website. My wife is all of it. Like she's has a marketing degree, has worked for a lot of marketing companies, so she's the brains behind all of this. I'm the guy that screws it up and gets on Twitter and says things I shouldn't sometimes. But so yeah, everything's just at Carl Bowser or at Carl Bowser Racing. They all loop back to our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So everything there, you can find us. I try and do a good job of keeping fans updated. I don't do nearly good a job as I should, but that's where everybody can find us.
And then this is, shout out some of your sponsors and anybody else that you want to thank.
Sure. Got to thank my wife. She's the one does all the marketing work, all the financial stuff. Like she's the backbone of the team. So my son Enzo, he's 3. I mean, he goes to the racetrack with us. He's a blast. So couldn't do it without them. My crew guys, my father-in-law, Jeff, we got Cody, Lucas, Austin, Gabe. They religiously come with us. And just recently we hired Todd Berkheimer. He is a former outlaw crew chief from Central PA. He just recently was with Brock Zierfoss, was his crew chief, and he's come on board kind of the last 5 races, I think. So we picked up that win at Tri-City. Until 2 days ago at Tri-City, we'd run the top 5 every night that he'd been there. And we ran 6th there Sunday. We kind of struggled a little bit. But he's come on board and kind of really help the team, like straighten some things up, kind of get the car kind of just through everything, all the extra parts and pieces, and just like how we should run a team. So that's been really good. So couldn't do it without them. Couldn't do it without Krill Recycling and Sean Krill. I mean, he came on board 4 years ago now. 3 years ago, we kind of started the whole Krill Recycling car, like got on board with that, and he spent a ridiculous amount of money across racing, and he's kind of slowed that down a little bit. Just he had, I always pick on him, like he doesn't have the ability to say no. So anybody that would stop and ask for money, he'd say yes, and then since I've been there now full time working for the company for 2 years, and like you start looking at the end of the day of like all the money out in racing, and it's a ton of money, and it's helped a lot of people. But there is a return on investment you need a little bit, and we are trying to grow the business. So that's kind of why we've slowed down a little bit, but he's just as passionate about it as he's ever been. So couldn't do it without him and the recycling company. Turner's Iced Tea, Dirty Mouth Communications, that's my wife's company. Reisman Body Shop, Fox Trucking, Ringer's Pet Dog Training. Like those people have all been with us for a long time. And they all either come to the races or, check in and see how we do, or, we'll text when we're going racing, good luck, and they look forward to their text at the end of the night or the next day on how we did. So, and the streaming stuff, locally has helped a bunch with that, like getting people some logins so they can watch, so that's been great. All racers should be doing that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Well, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck the rest of the season.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Yep.
See you.
Bye.
That was a great episode with Carl Bowser. We can't thank him enough for coming on, and we could have talked to him for a lot more, but I'm sure he has things to do, working on the car and
Shop
stuff.
night.
So yeah, it is shop night for him. So I feel bad we took up an hour of his time and stuff, but we really appreciate him coming on, and wish him the best of luck the rest of the season. So go follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're also on Threads. We don't post there, but go follow us anyways. We're on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and of course YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, and follow on all those. If you just watch one episode, watch for like 30 seconds, still give us a subscribe to us, because it helps us grow, and the more we grow, the more content we can put out, and just trying to build this up. So thanks for listening, and get out to a dirt track this weekend.